only reason Republicans lost this year, the only reason Mitt Romney is not president-elect right now, is because he was not anti-abortion enough. The group says in its own internal polling of likely swing voters, that polling proves that the reason Republicans did so poorly is because Republicans this year were not anti-abortion enough. Which is funny, because actual exit polling from the actual election yesterday shows that 59% of voters think that abortion should be legal in this country, which is the position of President Obama and a majority of Democratic candidates. And that is a 23-point advantage over the number of voters who think abortion should be illegal, which is the position of Mitt Romney and most Republican candidates. So on an issue where 2/3 of the electorate thinks you are wrong, the anti-abortion movement says the secret is that you should campaign more on what everybody thinks you're wrong about. The numbers get even worse for Republicans among Latinos. Yes, on this issue specifically, where less than 1/3 of Latino voters say they agree with the dominant Republican position on this issue. After the Republicans won a record number of state legislature seats in 2010 and a bunch of governorships too, Republicans in those states since the 2010 election have just been focused on abortion like never before. They enacted a record number of new anti-abortion laws, more than at any time since Roe versus Wade became the law of the land. The same thing happened at the federal level as soon as Republicans took control of the House after the 2010 midterm elections. H.R. 3, as in the House Republicans' third bill overall, their third bill was an anti-abortion bill. They have also tried to ban abortion after a certain time limit in Washington, D.C. They've tried to roll back access to birth control. And remember when they threatened to shut down the entire government if they were not allowed to defund Planned Parenthood? Where they were in power between the 2010 elections and the 2012 elections, Republicans governed very, very, very aggressively on this issue. They governed so aggressively on this issue it was unprecedented. What happened then, though, which maybe the Republicans were not counting on, was that Democrats decided they were going to make the Republicans explain themselves. Democrats decided they were going to hold Republicans to account for what they had been doing in terms of their governance and their philosophy on this issue, and what they plan to keep doing if Americans elected them again. And when Republicans started having to answer specific pointed questions about their position on abortion, some creepy stuff happened this year. We learned a great deal of very specific, very creepy detail of what Republicans really do believe about this issue they've been so energized about.
Even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen.
There's no such exception as life of the mother. And as far as health of the mother, same thing.
On the rape thing, it's like, how does putting more violence onto a woman's body and taking the life of an innocent child that's a consequence of this crime, how does that make it better? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she has to live with the consequence of that crime.
Well, I know crime has consequences.
If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
What is the percentage of abortions for rape? It is tiny. It is tiny, tiny percentage.
20,000 pregnancies every year for rape.
Yeah, and how many abortions? In the millions.
That's 20,000 rapes. That's 20,000 people who are violated.
Yeah, I know.
Why would you force a woman who's been raped to have that baby?
You know, like I say, Jim, I mean, my position is pro-life, and, you know, I care about the unborn, and I feel, you know, that's really where we should be in our policy.
What would the appropriate sentence be? Should we put her in jail? Should we fine her? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that at all?
You know, those are things that need to be worked out through the, through the legislative process.
Do you believe that a woman should be forced by the government to give birth to a rapist baby against her will?
I've always in my career, and to this day, been loyal to the principle of life. I'm pro-life. I'm profoundly pro-life. I'm pro-life to my core.
Should it be legal for a woman to be able to get an abortion if she's... Yeah, well, so I'm very proud of my pro-life record, and I've always adopted the position that the method of conception doesn't change the definition of life.
How would you tell a daughter or a granddaughter who, God forbid, would be the victim of a rape to keep the child against her own will?
I lived something similar to that with my own family. She chose life, and I commend her for that. She knew my views, but fortunately for me, I didn't have to. She chose was the way I thought. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't rape, but she did.
Similar how?
I mean, maybe I wouldn't.
That's similar to rape?
No, but well, put yourself in a father's position, yes. I mean, it is similar.
That was a video sampling from the Republican Party's creepy rape and abortion comments caucus. Those guys were essentially forced by precise and persistent lines of questioning in this election season to campaign on their anti-abortion positions, forced to explain themselves even when they did not want to, because frankly, Democrats pushed them on it. So how did these guys do in last night's election? They did very, very, very badly. The creepy rape and abortion comments caucus, by our count, went 0-for-9 last night. Every one of those guys you just heard from lost last night. Richard Murdoch, who thinks God sometimes intervenes to make sure rape victims are impregnated by their rapist, he lost the Senate race in Indiana, costing Republicans what had been considered a safe Senate seat. Joe Walsh, who believes abortion should be banned for women whose lives or health are in danger, Joe Walsh lost his House seat in Illinois to Democrat Tammy Duckworth. John the Rape Thing Coster, he lost his race for the House in Washington State. Todd Legitimate Rape Aiken, he lost the Senate race against Claire McCaskill, which was once considered an easy Republican Senate pickup. Congressman Roscoe Bartlett, who did not have the stats handy on pregnancy resulting from rape, Roscoe Bartlett, he lost his re-election bid in Maryland. Rick Berg, who said we can work out the details later of whether rape victims go to jail for abortion, he lost the Senate race in North Dakota. That was once seen as primed for a Republican pickup. John McGovern, who doesn't want to talk about rape, he just wants to talk about his pure pro-life core, he lost to incumbent Senator Bernie Sanders in Vermont. Paul Ryan, who called rape just another method of conception, Paul Ryan did win back his House seat, but he lost the vice presidency in rather spectacular fashion. And Tom Smith, who thinks getting pregnant out of wedlock is totally similar to getting pregnant by being raped, just put yourself in the father's position, he lost his U.S. Senate bid to incumbent Democratic Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania. Republicans who were forced to campaign on their anti-abortion politics, by and large, did not fare well this year. But by all means, Republicans, follow the anti-abortion movement's advice and campaign harder on your abortion politics next time. Really, go for that 1/3 of the electorate that thinks they agree with you on this issue before they've heard you really explain it. Maybe you can petition to change the rules of mathematics so that 36% will add up to a majority. Regardless, definitely talk more about rape, you guys. Keep it up.